trying to catch up at different paces. Just like you were trying to explain to the young lads about your experiences down in the years 97, 96, as around 8 years, I should say 8 or 9. But all in all, we are looking at a global population of around 5.2 billion worldwide internet users, and of which along the way, even then, you would use internet for basically search, a few things, basically information search. But along the way, internet and technology has evolved to be part and parcel of human, what we'd call a basic human need. And that way, with the digital transformation happening all over the world, it has opened up opportunities, has opened up enormous possibilities that anyone would want to tap in. So when you look into that 2010, it stopped from being just a place where we can search information that we need from with the search engines, Internet Explorer and all that. And it evolved into what we call a social media community, online community, where people started connecting one-on-one. You can, you'd send an email maybe via Yahoo then, but now Facebook came into play, Instagram came into play, Twitter, now X, along the way came into play, Google Plus then came into play. So it ceased to be just a place where we search information to become a community of global interconnected persons of interest. So it opened up the boundaries to make what I would call the biggest world of connecting all the 7 continents, 185 countries, diverse cultures, that is over 3,000 cultures, tribes, beliefs. All of them with internet penetration were brought into our palms, our devices. So it seems to be something that you trek miles to go and find, maybe to send an email, something that we live in our daily lives. And along the way now, 2018 comes in, generative AI taking the shape, and trust me, the pace is too fast for most of us to cope. However, just like anything beautiful, the endless possibilities come up with opening up a Pandora box of other troubles that we normally want to oversee and outlook. And I guess that's where along the way we start looking at how do we make sure that the opportunities that have come with the internet and technology advancement over the years can be enjoyed while keeping the rest of the world safe from the risks and harm that come with it. So indeed, it has been quite a journey. And here we are with some new tool on the block called AI that we don't even know what the end of it is, if it goes to the singularity aspect of it, where it regenerates itself to be better and better. So indeed, internet is part and parcel. I'll give you a short story. I was reading a testimony from one called Scott, who has a daughter, and this daughter is in kindergarten. So while she went to school, the school asked her to draw a family, what she understands to be a family anyway. And to the mother's surprise, the daughter decided to draw the father, then the mom, herself, and then besides that, she decided also to draw Alexa. Those who don't know Alexa is an AI-enabled voice recognition machine that basically used in homes, smart homes and all that. So the mother asked herself, when did this technology tool, AI-enabled, start being part of my family? And forgets that to a kid, this was not just, Alexa was not any other gadget, just like the mother was looking at it. But the daughter, Alexis, had personified the experience she has with this Amazon generated technology that would help them, for example, say, Alexa, play for me the best music for the day, best for the mood, and it plays it. Put off the lights, and then on its screen, it always had "I love you." So the daughter replied to the mom and said, "Mom, every time I come to home, Alexa on the screen always has "I love you." To that daughter, Alexa was part of the family. To the mother who bought this tool to enable them in their homes look as an experience, it was just technology to help them look better. So that's how far we've gone.
I think you have a much bigger problem where you have a much bigger problem where there's a possibility that the mom probably wasn't telling the girl "I love you" as much as Alexa was. So Alexa ends up becoming closer to the child than the mom. That's incredible to hear. Again, so let me bring in Anthony for just a moment. Mr. Natif, if you think about this, and again, just to sort of lay the tone for where we have come from and where we are at the moment, we are now looking at a moment where people are becoming more intimate with the internet than they are with the people that are close to them. One of the biggest challenges that has come with this, of course, is scams, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But the trick that they use, even for most of the scammers, usually will be about being able to try and get to make personal connections with people. And the internet, for the longest time, was supposed to be something that helped us, build better lives. But it seems to be pushing to the point where we're becoming more and more isolated and looking inward, while socially connected, but not really connected at all. Would that, am I stretching it? Would that be a fair assessment, would you think?
Yes, but I listened intently to Owen's submission. I mean, as an activist, then I will tell you, I look at the internet as both an exciting tool because it allows us some sort of mass appeal, but also a divider of society. It is increasing the gap and the people who do not, and leaving so many people by the wayside. Before I engage with your question, I'll just throw at you some numbers. While we think that, oh, the internet is now ubiquitous and all of us have it in the homes and all that stuff, when you look at Ugandan numbers, as of January 2024, I'm sure Mr. Bosa has, of UCC has the latest numbers, and I intend to hit him up for this. Internet penetration is just 27%. Yes, we can say, well, it's great because just over 13 million Ugandans have access, but Uganda has close to 50 million people, so what's happening to the rest? So if we are now heavily reliant on the internet, as Owen is saying, what's happening to the 73%, 70% or something of the Ugandans who are not having access to this, so we are leaving them on the wayside. While we are doping on it and getting extremely dependent on it, these people are being left on the wayside. So there's going to be massive inequality decades down the road, informed by non-uniform access to the internet. And we need to actually think about this. That's now my activist angle speaking. Now, to engage with your question, you know very well that the internet, well, it used to be a tool for military establishments and all that stuff, but it hit the mainstream space around 1983. So an argument can be made that the first generation that grew, that experienced the internet are now fully grown. They are pushing their 50s. And you might bear me witness, Owen, but most importantly, Ben and myself, the time we engaged with the internet were much older. But now you're seeing children engaging with the internet at a much earlier age than we did. But sadly, the measures in place to protect us not only from the scams that you want to talk about, but a lot of there are other risks that come with the internet, risks around bullying, obviously the scams you're talking about, access to pornography. Owen did mention the age of that child, but from the sound of things, she's probably not any older than 6. but she has access to Alexa and can command Alexa to do anything. Alexa can get you whatever you want on the internet. So you have to think about things like, yes, access to pornography, self-harm imagery, basically content that kids are not supposed to be accessing. Unfortunately, our governments and internet companies, especially internet companies, because they live in a cutthroat space where they're business people, so they are fighting for market share. They understand that the best way to get eyeballs on your website, on your product, is to make it as addictive as possible. So now we have I should call this internet doping. You get algorithms here to ensure that our kids and ourselves spend as much time as possible looking at these screens. Look at TikTok, look at Snapchat. It looks like a place designed, also X for some of us activists. It looks like a place designed to just keep you there all day. So what are we doing to kind of harness both the benefits of the internet and lessen the risks, especially considering that our first internet debut is now reducing as the internet becomes ubiquitous. With improved income in our families, you're going to see a lower age of access to the internet. And with it, we're going to have our kids being hit with all the problems that come with the internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely spot on. Yeah, I do hear you, and that's the whole point of if we're thinking about this. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, if I'm not mistaken, Tony, I think you are a little bit of a villager like myself. What was your first access to the internet? You remember how old you were when you first had any meaningful connection with?
I was in Namiriango and we went to the computer lab. I think I was in senior 2. I was probably 13, 14. But, that's because, Namiriango had one of the first computer labs, and this is 1998. So what happens to the schools in PG and all those other places? So people started engaging meaningfully with the internet. When we came to university, we came to Makerere, you go to these internet cafes you were describing at the start with the old computers. Time is bigger than the corrupt officials we have in our government. And, slow comes. But that's when we engage with the internet meaningfully. So we're 19, 20 years old. Now, a child is crawling and they have a phone in their hands. They can play around with stuff. They start to say, "Mommy, Daddy," and they are being given what's this game called Cocomelon, and through that they're learning how to buy all these kids' internet games. It's at the age of 3, someone is familiar with the internet. So what are we going to do about that? There has not been advancement in internet policing. And now, of course, as an activist, you're going to face an argument between counterbalancing freedom of access to information and individual freedom of expression vis-a-vis the need to assert certain boundaries that ensure public safety. So we're going to have to now have conversations around that. And it's going to be really, really interesting. Of course, other countries, I think the UK has toyed with this with a significant backlash. The US is in the middle of an electoral revolution driven on delivered on the back of social media. So Uganda is entering an electoral period that's going to still be driven on the back of social media, partly, at least for the 27% of the population that have access to this. So what are we doing to ensure that we have safe use? I'm glad this is a UCC space and we can have these conversations. Then, of course, mental illness that comes with the internet. Obviously, there's been lots of studies. If you just throw any random search words in your Google Scholar, you will get a ton of studies looking at, the detrimental effects that come with the internet. Of course, you have lessening of kids' technical skills, social skills are going to die, critical thinking is going to be down. Imagine you have what Owen is talking about, AI becoming ubiquitous. Are we going to be able to think? Some people, some journalists these days just plug everything they want in AI. It brings back an entire article and they just retweet here and there. So that means the craft of writing is going to go. With it, the craft of thinking is going to go. And all that stuff. What are we doing about it? What are we doing to preserve the things, the good things that actually are the bedrock of our civilization?
Yeah.
Are we going to sacrifice all these at the altar of internet advancement? We're going then to suddenly have lazy humans who can think their way out of the wet paper bag. We're going to have mindless automatons just moving around, and you're going to even forget directions to Muyenda or to Kisasi or whatever. You just sit in your car and you're like, well, plug in the address. But there's a certain beauty to engaging with the unbuilt environment, knowing your neighborhood, and we're going to lose all that. So how are we working around it? I have a 14-year-old, she's almost 15. She started using the internet when she was probably 4 years old. Now she's a master at it. She's better than me. And I fear, but we as parents, we have to have the same conversations we have with our kids about sex. We probably need to start having these internet conversations quite early. Tell them how to ensure internet safety. For instance, the internet is a real place. So I tell my daughter, anything you can't do in the physical realm, you probably shouldn't do it in the digital realm. Like, you can't walk over to someone on the road and just hand them your contact details. You can't just strike up a conversation and a bromance or whatever with any random person you meet. So it's trying to set boundaries around that. These kids are when it comes to playing with these gadgets. So even if you put in some passwords, they always find problem around sex and relationships and stuff like that. Well, knowing that, look, your job as a parent is to put in certain safeguards to stop them, going out and having sex before they are adults. But ultimately, they are going to do what they are going to do. So let's think about that.
Yeah. Look, Owen, what I'm hearing Tony paint is a rather dystopian picture. Unfortunately, it seems to be a little bit hard to disagree with him. I was told recently of a certain gentleman who found out that his 16-year-old daughter was on OnlyFans. I'm sort of hoping that most of the people on the call don't know what OnlyFans is. So that doesn't look good at all, does it? If you think about where we're going and what that means. We haven't even started talking about mental health. I want us to talk about that. I want us to talk about cyberbullying, child porn. So in that regard, Owen, is it a good thing in a way that while Tony is complaining about slow internet penetration, that maybe the road is being slowed just a little bit?
One of the aspects of digital citizenship is digital access. And just like explained, there is always someone who will be an early adopter, there are others who will be slow adopters or late adopters. Unfortunately, Uganda, we are among those who we are too slow at adopting to increase the digital access to everyone, but the progress is there. And what that gives us as a country is that we have a chance to benchmark the impact of technology and internet as far as families are concerned, with nations that were early adopters. So to me, I look at it from the side of policymakers, regulators. They have an opportunity to just look at it. For example, if you're looking at the US with COSA policy changes that they are making as far as kids' access to internet in schools are concerned, these are the people that allowed kids to have these phone handheld gadgets earlier in the 2000s, but now they are going back to make sure that they enforce how children access their internet and technology with their Kids Online Safety Act that is being amended. When you look at Australian Parliament last year with their social media minimum age bill 2024, where they said that for any child to be on social media, any social media platform must be 16 and above. And if they don't do that, companies will be liable to pay a fine of $50 million per user that accesses. It gives us a reason to sit back and ask ourselves as a nation and as a policymakers, regulators, and even us as parents who are the first gatekeepers. Why are these nations that were early adopters of technology have high levels of internet penetration and technology use almost in every part of their lifestyles, going back to make sure they enforce these rules? Even when you look at the case studies of top tech personalities, all of them have strict rules about how their children access and use internet. Just take a Google and search, you'll find some of them actually ban social media until they are 14 years. The idea is for us who are coming in and adopting and embracing everything without filtering, what is our problem? So I look at our slowness to digital access being an opportunity for us to make informed decision, because there's someone who is going through the same situation or has gone through the same situation before. Now, having looked into that, you get also to understand that Natif talked about all these other risks that come. And one of the ways that we assess these risks is what I shared much earlier in our conversation, the 4 Cs, where I look at the content. This is what our children are interacting with. Is it indecent images and videos? Is it adult pornography? Nowadays we have soft pornography that comes in music videos and all that. We're talking about violent acts. Research actually has it that a child sees 120,000 violent acts per year. And they say 80% of children between 12 and 16 have interacted with something sexual in their lives every time they access internet. Actually, for the research that was done by UCC itself in 2020, 1 out of 5 children in Uganda that access internet has had an interaction with age-inappropriate content. So that kind of content that comes up, and I remember earlier last year we had a symposium organized by Parliamentary Forum for Creatives and Culture. And one of the top artists in the country looked into our faces as we were saying there's a need to be conscious on the content we put up out there. This lady told us content doesn't put food on the table. So we are looking at parents who don't care about what they do in their own lives, but expect different from the kids. So from the C's of content, when people get a chance to contact, like for example, like I said, this interconnectivity. We're looking at the second C where you're saying your contact, and here we're looking at child trafficking, discriminatory abuse, hate speech, exploitation, harassment. Meta recently released the research where it says that 100,000 children are sexually harassed on Facebook and Instagram every day. This is Meta analyzing and looking into its own platforms. And that
Let me repeat that number again. How many kids is that we're talking about?
100,000 children face sexual harassment via Facebook and Instagram. This is Meta research. And that's the reason actually they went ahead to make sure they created an Instagram for teens, 14 and below. So the danger that is out there for our children is beyond what we assume. Yes, I agree, we need to embrace all this, but we must be conscious. Now, when you're looking at that bit of contact, then there comes the conduct side of it. The conduct is when I've seen this, how do I react? When I've interacted with these people, how do I react? We are looking at things like revenge porn. Over the holiday, one of the parents that we've been doing online seminars with Family Life Network contacted me and asked me, I'm in danger. And I said, what's wrong? A 14-year-old that I don't know what to do with. I'm afraid she's crossing the border. For a minute, I asked myself, how do I approach this? Because usually, like any other addiction, you only see effects of it towards relapse. And only to realize that she tells me the honest truth have been, I let it be. They're using it from COVID access to laptops. They bought phones for them, put on data every day, but they never monitored. And that was an eye-opener. And I told her at 14, any parent should be looking on how do I groom this kid into an adult who can make their own information, who can make their own choices. And meaning that even policing, for example, using parental control tools, must reach at a certain age where you're thinking, maybe by the time my kid crosses to 18, should be able to make their own decisions about it. And along the way, she also informed, she got a message where a certain boy was asking her, can you please send me some photos? And in our head, we were thinking, has she ever sent her photos? Because these kids are smart. Like, for example, revenge porn, you send your naked photos, you're just 14, adolescence is at the height of your head, emotions are boiling. Then tomorrow, the same boy comes back and says, you have to pay for, unless I'm raising these photos. Those are the revenge porns we are seeing very common in our Uganda. And forgetting the blueprint that comes, the footprint that comes with the technology, once it's out there, retrieving it becomes an issue. So the conduct that comes in cyberbullying and all that, sexting, we've had even adults here who have got to take detox, go off social media just because they can't handle the abuses that are coming out from fellow people here on our famous X streets. Now, in that comes the last bit of the policy, which is a contract. When these e-commerce applications are coming, we are saying, every time you install an app, they're saying you agree to the terms. You're agreeing, you don't even have an idea. They're telling you, for example, we can access your information, use it for marketing, tools, and all that. We just sign like ignorant people full of excitement on the new technologies that are coming. But all that has an impact on us. And the conscious, mostly on the children, that comes in my biggest worry is that these kids, as research has it, that the brain only comes to full development. The frontal lobes of the brain comes to full development at 25. That's when they think that your brain has fully developed to make informed decisions. But here we are having devices with all kind of information, highly unfiltered, with internet loaded 24/7 in the palms of young minds, where we all know that brains follow a specific pattern and need specific stimulation to develop into healthy brains. And that is going back to affect us. The other day I shared on the health side of it that digital devices have been medically proven to be impacting two main hormones on a child, even on an adult. One is dopamine release, that is a feel-good hormone that is part of the brain. The other one is melatonin. Now, dopamine that is released through addiction. Research has found out that it is the same measure that we release through drugs of abuse. So when your child spends more time on screen, let's say 5-6 hours, of which by research say if a kid is not controlled, can spend between 6 to 8 hours a day. And for those kids that I've personally talked to when we visit the schools, they even tell you the whole day I can be there when my dad and mom are not there. So assume the addiction has reached, the people talking about the idea of gamification and rewards. Every application and device has been made so that you spend a lot of time on it. There is a like, there's a reshare, notifications, there is how many followers you have. They even, give you a bang, you've reached 1 million followers, share it with people. So all these things are there to make sure that we interact endlessly with these platforms. Even the phones themselves reach a level where they profile us. If you love looking at cartoons, it will give you that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I wanted to ask about that a bit. So, and you can continue on that trajectory, Owen, and then Natif can come in as well. So, if this is what the internet is designed to do, to try and make sure that we have people as hooked as we can, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I might have had Natif in a subtle way confess to being addicted to X. You currently have he's free to deny this, by the way. I'm just saying from the inference I had, right? Because he's not the only one we have made it, and the validation that comes from it. Look, at the moment, you currently have most of the social media platforms suggesting that the minimum age is 13. We know that very well. My son is now turning 10. He knows how to navigate the internet almost as well as I can. You've got countries like you mentioned, Owen, Australia, and I think the UK is also trying to raise that minimum age to access to social media, in particular, to 16. But that's just not good enough, is it? At 13, these kids are so impressionable that literally they can be molded by just about anything, right?
You see, to me, the age is one way of people trying to punch the holes. But the other key thing is that we have to come to reality that say digital citizenship, everything around internet and technology use, to the parents is a strange land. To the kids is one place they are looking for with excitement, yet naive on how to deal with it. So the discussion, the policies, the education, all-around integration of digital citizenship skills must be started at a way younger age, and also with maximum control. UCC says that 8 out of 10 kids that use internet and technology access it from private places like bedrooms. Homes no longer have, like, a kid goes for 8 hours with a parent's phone doing what in their bedroom. Now, in that moment, you can't tell what they're doing. If they're doing research, did it end? So you come to realize that even us parents should give a way to make sure that media influence takes the first step over parental guidance. And that's where we are mostly losing it. That even when we have the power to create, take covenants in our homes, for example, for how long should my kid be on the phone? And use it for what? Am I informed? Am I in their digital experiences, their digital life, to know what they like, what they dislike? How do I help them navigate? We are clueless. We've also come up with all excuses, I'm busy, I'm what. But at the end of the day, it becomes our mandate, whether you give a phone social media to 15, but beyond that, this kid has been accessing all other things via other platforms. Let's say Google as a search engine, now other AI, so you can access any information without actually going to the connectivity that comes with the social media platforms. To me, that this is how do we embed values early enough into these digital natives, so that the conversation, instead of waiting to have it at 14 with your daughter, have it from way down, minimize the screen time to the time you think is productive enough. UCC has data that says that almost 50% of data consumed in Uganda is spent on TikTok. And according to UBOS, 67% of data that Ugandans consume, total data, goes to entertainment. That means that most of us have gone to that bit of where our brains have reached a level where they are overstimulated, like the overstimuli of our brains, that we can't get away from it. So it means that even when we think that the time we're giving it to spend on these platforms, they are not in what we'd call utmost productivity or the tools that would help us come up with the best of us. Most of them is entertain and stimulate us. So to me, even when we reduce the minimum age for social media and all that, at the home, your home as a parent, as a mother, as a father, there must be that bit of us being intentional enough to say, within my home, what are the rules of using technology? How long, where, for how long, what do you search? these other tools that come up, parental control tools, learn as much as we can. So we have parents who are detached from reality of digital technology and its effects and benefits, but also when you talk to them, they tell you they are very worried about what is happening. But also they show you that they cannot create time to start learning these things. So the question is, are we going to have a bit of where these parents have to be possibly done that? No. They need to take it back and say, we are dictatorship, what do we do? Let's learn. And from learning, then you become empowered to know how do I empower my child to navigate through this digital world, thrive in it, but responsively. And that becomes the beginning part of where a parent is informed. And that
Natif, how do you juxtapose this against the current problem we have in Uganda, where we know that as a country, not only are we, for all intents and purposes, a bit of a lawless nation, the lawlessness seems to stem from the fact that we are completely bereft of discipline as individuals. And so you've got parents who essentially use gadgets and internets as a coping mechanism for their children. If the kid is being rowdy, throw them the internet. Because you're too busy chasing the hustle, leave the kids to the devices, get them the devices, and then you can just let them be. How badly is that exacerbating the problem that Owen is trying to raise at the moment?
Please repeat that question. I think I had a connectivity issue.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that Owen is talking about all these things that the kids are having to deal with, and the responsibility on parents to make sure that they are being a bit more responsible. And I'm saying, how do you draw the parallels with that? The fact that in Uganda, on average, individually, we're extremely indisciplined in almost every aspect of life, which is why, again, you could say we are a lawless country, because people just don't know how to follow rules and discipline. So parents just usually give their kids gadgets to get them off of them when they are too busy, or because parents are too busy working hard or pretending to work hard, they end up just leaving the kids, teenagers, to do whatever it is that they want to do. How much worse does that then make the problem?
First, actually, I have a science background, a public health background. I like to bury myself in evidence. I've been looking at this internet problem actually for a while, but most research studies indicate that for children to be safe online, it actually has less to do with them needing to change, but the bulk of it has to do with technology companies needing to change. So it's a bit strange, but when you look at the legislation coming up in the West, mainly the UK.
Technology companies, Natif, and not the parents? Wouldn't the parents be in a position to actually be able to steal? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
The most important thing that needs to actually change is the technology company. So you have different areas of intervention. The technology company, the parent, the regulators like UCC. But the biggest player is the technology company. So Owen talked about age-appropriate website. So if you don't stop your child from going on Instagram, but it should be age-appropriate content. So if a child is 14, the algorithm needs to be retooled to make sure that child that is age-appropriate. So oftentimes, these websites will insist on, well, when you're going to access this website, we assume you're an adult. So they put, they put a cap of 18. But a 14-year-old will want to access that, so they'll falsify their age. You see? And then get in there, and the first thing they are facing is domestic abuse. They are being cajoled into sending nudes and all that stuff. So how do you says, I am going to stop you access this device. As Owen says, and as I said at the start, think about internet use the same way you think about having that sex conversation with your adolescent child. It's gonna happen. The earlier you do it, the better. So the way you ensure that that message thinks is by what happens when parents come down hard on these children and take away their rights to access internet. Ironically, being overly intrusive and putting in place ridiculous so the child, it will not be so easy for this child to come to you, the parent, and actually take stuff they're engaging with online. So when that communication is not built on mutual vulnerability and it's not built on trust, there's an incentive for this child to hide whatever it is they're finding out or they're engaging with, and you will never know. You will have a situation that Owen was talking about. This child is on a bus going to Nairobi. They're being trafficked from a society largely where, then when we were growing up, most households, a father had his own chair, he had his own car. When he showed up, everyone was watching to watch whatever they wanted. Now, as parents, we are parenting in a more modern society. So then the power distance between the parent and the child needs to reduce as significantly as possible, because that's the only way you have quick diagnosis of the dangers they're facing and then intervene.
Yeah.
Countries like Australia and the UK or the all they'll do is go underground. So these
Tony, you seem to be breaking up a little bit. I think your connection is being a bit shaky. Why don't I give you an opportunity to try and Tony, can you hear me?
Again,
as I said, your network was breaking up a little bit. Just why do you try and maybe get the connection a bit better? Owen.
Sports.
Right. I think. Yeah. Owen, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I think Natif is having a little bit of a challenge with the network. While you try and wait for him to stabilize, let's pivot a little bit to talk about. You talked about dopamine levels and the psychology involved, especially again, if we look from the perspective of children. Just how bad does it get if we're talking about things like mental health? I know that, for example, from a girl's perspective, the entire perception of what they think about life usually will be completely falsified based on what they have seen on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. Based on what you've been studying, how bad is the effect of that?
Definitely, the two ways. For a boy child, most of the time they spend their technology use on games. And one of the reasons why the boy child goes on internet, rarely there is social approval and other things like that. However, for a girl child, we look at them looking at nowadays the social platforms as an area for social validation, and of which at times that comes for a fact that the human connection with the parents and home within homes has drastically reduced. And in that, the young minds are turning to the online communities for validation and approval. And not forgetting that most of the content that comes online, mostly from even us, we've seen men who do filters. Like a girl has first filter the photo a number of times, make sure the best comes out of it. So there is a distinct reality between what is true and what has been amplified to be acceptable on the digital platforms or social media. Now, I look at it from the angle where a poor child takes a photo and throws it on Instagram. And there are these people who don't care about morals, like we said, and the trolling comes in and the kind of comments, body shaming. We're looking at comments which just comes up like, you're ugly. In any case of all photos, why this? Why wouldn't you get a better? To women, they take it, or ladies or young girls, they take it with a lot of emotions and energy. And most of the times we look at them pulling down the posts and then redoing based on what comments have come up from the communities where they're seeking social approval. Now, what that does, that impacts or affects their self-esteem largely. That you find that for a girl to feel I'm beautiful, to feel I have wisdom, I'm influential, it has to go with the numbers you have, the likes you have on your photos, how many people are following you. And that seems to be the world they are constantly getting used to. And this, if you stem to the origin starts from within home, because Mr. Mwine and Rachel, you have beautiful girls, but when you reach home, everyone is on their own gadgets. So we repressed the physical connection and preferred it for like distant connection, online connection, because literally that's where many likes are coming in, many approvals are coming in, and all that. And more so when you look at that, besides the disappointing facts that comes with the online bullies that will tell you things as they are, even when they just being intentionally mean at you, a young girl child cannot take that in. So most of what happens as time comes in with a lot of addiction and bullying that comes on online, they tend to do withdrawal. So if you're a very observant parent, you get to understand that my kids used to love playing with fellow kids. How come that now she prefers being in the corner on their phone? There is always a mood change around it that you will, if you're observant enough, you will know. Then the other bit comes with, on mental health side, comes with, I talked of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone responsible for sleep cycles. Now, for longer hours you spend before a blue screen, the more it reduces the release of melatonin hormones to your brain. So that's why you find we're having more people struggling with sleep at night, simply because they've spent most of the hours towards bed watching the blue screen, and that blue screen reduces the release of melatonin into their brain. And that's, we have kids who testify they watch all night. You switch off the phone, lights, and everyone has gone to bed, they're on the phones, busy chatting with their friends, doing videos and all that. That affects their sleep pattern. What that does, it brings in sleep deprivation, like lack of sleep, and that affects their day-to-day brain work and metabolism, if I may say. Then that impact itself creates another layer of issues on your mental health, because literally you lack sleep. Even as old people, you try driving on the road when you've not had enough sleep, the effect is real. Then the other bit that comes in is anxiety and fear of missing out that is more vulnerable to the girl child. Why you find that for everything they want to know what has happened to that next episode of Girls in Kampala, or Kampala the Cream, or what has happened to this favorite series. Now phones have turned into cinemas. I have a friend who recently said that she goes on this phone Netflix and watches all night, then wakes up, goes to work, and the work she does is in media, goes straight to the laptop to start editing clips, and then the cycle goes on. And the other day I asked her, have you checked your TikTok? And she said for 1 week she had spent 30 hours on TikTok. That is besides Netflix, besides other platforms. So recently I asked her, she's a grown person, but I was like, have you really thought about how this is impacting your health, more so your mind, and all that? She said, Owen, I've tried, but every time I go into my bed, I realize that I can't find sleep note until I get this phone. Now, what that is doing is creating another layer of addiction and effect on our sleep patterns because of that melatonin effect. So, in a long run, we are having very impulsive effects on these people that we're having. You're seeing mental health is going to be on the rise as much as we can because of the impacts that you're looking at, fear of missing out, the anxiety, the depression, social impulse, and all that.
Yeah, that's it. You wanted to add something to that?
Yes, so every time I hear Owen describing this, he's essentially describing addiction. Now, as parents, we need to go back and study the addiction pathway in humans. What gets someone addicted to cocaine? What gets someone addicted to ecstasy? It's the same reward system that these social media platforms bring. So how do we fix that problem? How do you find exactly as shown? Ours a bit network connection rudely interrupted my flow. I was telling you that the first thing you need to do is about you cannot come down so hard on this kid. They do, then they go underground. The possibility of addiction harm reduction intervention, when you see in these drugs, you have change programs, and they have been shown to work because the same approaches we use in fighting addiction are the ones we're going to have to use here. Outright bans, as pushed by, say, the government, some elements in the governments in the UK and the US partly, they wanted to ban TikTok for security reasons, largely. Australia, they don't work. Research has shown they don't work. Then you get down to the dangers that Owen is talking about. But in practical terms, and I imagine you have parents on here, they'll be asking themselves, what do I do as a parent to actually improve the environment within which my child is using the internet? I think one, we've repeated it ad nauseum, start the online conversation, online safety conversation quite early, teach kids not to put out stuff they'll regret. We all know this famous adage that the internet never forgets. This could come back to bite them later when they're applying for school, they're applying for college, they're applying for jobs and all that stuff. They need to constantly drum that into their head. One thing I tell my daughter is, if you can't do something face to face, perhaps don't do it online. That's something you need to remember. Don't appoint yourself a spy as a parent. Kids actually know how to use the internet, oftentimes better than we do. And once they find out you're snooping around, you're accessing their emails, you're doing all this stuff, oftentimes we parents want to keep passwords to our children's emails. Uh, One time you'll get in there and you'll see an email, you click on it, and that will be the same time the child logs in, and they will notice, oh, my email has been read, that trust is gone, and with trust being destroyed, these kids will have an incentive to hide whatever dangers they're facing from you. So open up those communication channels. Don't appoint yourself some sort of CIA on your child. You need to obviously warn your kids about, these people who traffic kids. They come dangling all sorts of offers to these children. So strangers bearing gifts, that's something they need to watch out for. Obviously, you can't say, well, don't browse unaccompanied, because they have their own individual gadgets, they have their own accounts, they do have a significant level of independence. Obviously, they're not going to have 100% independence once they're under your roof. But you have to balance the need to snoop, the need to control what they see, against the need to respect their individual freedom. Because any developing child, once individual freedom is trampled upon, you're going to lose some sort of free expression. Your view of the world is from a very oppressive perspective, and you don't want to solve one internet problem while raising while destroying your child in other aspects. Then I think it's not illogical, it's not draconian to say, well, we can limit internet access blocks. Let's go outside, let's take walks, let's go for runs, let's go do whatever. If you have these kids becoming
before we talk about the draconian, and actually wanted us to talk about that also, not only from the perspective of the parents, but also from the state's perspective. Have we given consideration to the possibility, and in many cases, the fact that many of the parents are probably more addicted to the internet than the children? What do you do when you have an addicted parent who is supposed to be responsible for containing their child?
That's sad. A druggie raising a druggie. That's the problem of going to face. But as parents,
it seems to be where we are, right? If you think about it, I keep joking how many people usually, when they wake up in the morning, they reach for their phones before they reach for their spouse. So, and no one has denied that yet. So,
yeah. So you see, part of the solution to any problem is recognizing its existence. And I get the impression that you recognize this and you will catch yourself sometimes when you cross the line. Or you need to have accountability partners in your life. It could be your wife, it could be your friend, it could be your colleague reminding you of this. Social etiquette. Oftentimes you'll see us go out on dates and we get out there and we are on our phones half the time. Well, the point of going to a date was, I need to talk to this person, they find it interesting, I need to know about them. And then you get out there and you're talking to little strangers online. So that's a risk that we quite constantly face. But part of the reason, part of the theme, part of the recommendations for raising responsible digital citizens is that we have to teach them and teach them often. So you never tire of reminding these people and ourselves of the importance of, stepping out of this virtual universe and actually engaging with the actual universe. So take your kids out to the park, take them for walks, take them to the beach, spend time playing board games, and all that stuff. So have certain designated internet use times, and just like you tell people, don't eat 2 hours before you go to bed, perhaps because you're going to get fat, you're going to get this, you'll get diseases and all that stuff. Perhaps maybe we need to come up with some sort of internet rules in our household. Maybe if your bedtime is 10 p.m., 2 hours before bedtime, you have to be off the phone and stuff like that. So we need to be creative. I don't know how many families have a domestic internet use manual, but I think we need to develop these, and UCC can actually help develop this. UCC will not just look at itself as a regulator that's going to suggest draconian laws, because these laws actually do not work. The government cannot parent our children. We have to find ways of parenting our own children. So yes, the kind of parents you're talking about, it's lazy parenting that says, well, our kids are having sex so early, the government is failing us. No, it is parenting. It starts from your house, from your dinner table. It starts from how you talk with your child. It starts from the kind of relationship you build. To be able to get through to someone to actually be a responsible user of a product that they have almost 100% control over, because you don't have control over my phone, I have control over my phone. So to get me not to go to phone, to get me not to go to TikTok 24/7, we have to have that kind of relationship where I respect your advice and you respect mine. But that's on the parent.
Yeah, but surely there's got to be room for the government and their responsibility to be able to carry out some sort of awareness campaigns to help people understand the dangers of some of the stuff that we're talking about. And I wanted the both of you to, sort of touch on that issue in terms of what can we do both as a state and as individuals, before we open it up for a few people to maybe share some thoughts. But before we do, there's one other thing that I think is very important to touch on. And I'll start with Owen, and then we'll come back to you, Natif. This whole issue of it's no longer being called child pornography. It's not being called, I think, child sexual assault, if I'm not mistaken. Again, do you get the sense that, especially in Uganda, because we've sort of grown up in a very conservative society, we don't realize just how endemic this is? Because, if you look at stories coming out of the Western world and how perverted these societies have become, those guys are literally on the prowl on a daily basis, trying to find ways of recruiting our kids into their really, really bad manners. Do the both of you get the sense that we're not taking this seriously enough? Or maybe we're not understanding just how serious this can be. Starting with you, Owen, and then we'll come to Natif, and then I want to hear from you about what you think can and should be done. And then we'll open it up for some questions and some conversations from some of the guys who are online. So, Owen?
Yeah. Yes, it's sad reality. That's like you've said. Now, if you find, like I said, 90% of age 16 see online pornography, those are children, and those are research by UNICEF. And also you find that the access to what we are looking at as sexual advances, let me put it this way. I'm tempted to use a local example, but I would choose not to for reasons.
Actually, you know what, Owen, if I can use you and Natif as statistical data, between the three of us, I think we're going to be able to show something very quickly. What was your first encounter with pornography? How old were you?
My first encounter with pornography, I was senior one, I must say, because that's when it opened up 2001. It opened up this outside of home and access to all kind of media. I remember then they used to have, musicians in the West used to do two types of music videos. There was a clean copy and a dirty copy. So some of us would want to go and find out what is that dirty copy, Then the other bit came in when there was this draft part of it. There was a game of draft where you have to.
Oh, I remember that with the young girl who had an open chest, and every time I remember the checkers game very well. She had the jeans skirt and the floral blouse. Like, I can never forget it.
And those are the kinds of games, remember, that came in 2000s. But that is.
Oh dear, you've just taken me back to a place. And Natif, Yeah, Natif, how old are you? What was your first encounter? How old were you?
I was 9. In Sveta, I used to collect money in the local movie theater called Chivanda. So they used to have new movies from 11 p.m. So you can imagine.
Oh yeah, and I think for me that was the idea, to try and paint the picture for you guys of just how real this is, and that was us.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's 40, 30, maybe 32, 33 years ago. If you think about how far the internet has advanced now and how easily accessible this stuff is, it just tells you just how much of a big problem we have, especially now the fact that people are actually trying to reach out to our kids to groom them. And I think that's the word that is best used here, because they actually do try to groom those kids into getting involved in these activities, right?
Very. And also, for example, look at, we have kids who want to watch soccer on these pirated sites. Almost every pirated site has a porn link as a step to reaching to this nated soccer match. If you're not able to navigate through it, there's a high likelihood that you'll pass through like a bunch series of pornographic sites before you reach that game of Arsenal and Liverpool. Watch it. And that's what mostly everyone is using. And silently, we're into that. And what they forget, for example, you find a Ben who has done that and forgotten to close the window for a pornographic site. It runs for the 2 hours of your soccer game. Then after you're sharing your phone with your child, what this phone does, it profiles your experiences. It will assume that actually for all that long you're looking at this pornographic site, even when you aren't, it was in another window. Now, what happens when you give it your phone as device sharing with your kid? Your kid will literally be recommended these very sites. And these are confessions that we've had from these fellow kids. Actually, one of them said it, like, you know what you watch, and when you give us your phone, after watching what you've recommended, what the next thing that is shared is what you watch. So if you're watching those adult things, in his own words. So that is how much that is. And along the way, the other side of it, we are going to have a generation of men who are not interested in sex, as I must say, because there's nothing to look out for. Everything you want to look out for, you've seen it, you've heard it, and that is basically biology and psychology side of pornographic content. So we are going to increasingly see people losing sexual desire and curiosity about the woman and how they are made, because literally they've feasted on this for almost their entire lives. And when it crosses to 30 and you're busy asking your son, why can't you marry, they're like, for what, So it's a silent danger that comes up. So you find that digital addiction...
I mean, Owen, what you're talking about, there's proof of it. So in Japan, you have men, there's a sex toy industry that was so developed that you have these sex dolls that are almost human-like, and you have men getting used to, having these companions that are not human. And it's been a disaster, and you're seeing their population take a nosedive, you're seeing an inverted demographic pyramid, and it's absurd. But these things creep up on society so fast if we are not careful.
Which is a perfect time then, I guess, to ask gentlemen, so what do we do? Because we've seen what's happening to the Western world. We've seen just how, for lack of a better word, how screwed up and messed up their society is becoming. We don't seem to be that far gone yet, even though we are heading there at quite a terrific speed. What can we do to stem that descent? What do we do?
One, the quick one is what we talked at the family level. Can parents be more intentional to make sure that they manage and control and equip their children to be better as far as using technology is concerned? Come up with something, what are calling the family tech covenant. How do you use technology in your home? At what age are you allowed to access different things as far as technology is concerned? But more so, parents being informed enough so that they can not just withdraw these rights and our right to access to internet and technology, but also explain why am I, for example, reducing screen time to 2 hours between 4 and 7 or 8 a day. Explain these things. And to me, I believe when we explain these things from an informed point of view, then we create a home that embraces the lifestyle of a digital citizen, a lifestyle of a digital family, and integrate the values within your digital experiences. The problem that we're having, like you said, we are having addicted parents trying to bring up, raise addicted kids. And along the way, no one is helping the other. So recognize that there is a problem. After recognizing it, go back to our family setup and say, what are the rules that can help us? If they don't know these rules, that's where these regulatory authorities, policymakers, our partners, churches, mosques come in. Say, how do we look for Ben Mwine? How do we look for Natif? How do we look for Owen? How do we look for Ibrahim? Make sure that we use our pulpits as one way of sensitizing to Paris, make sure that they are aware, the awareness levels. Even in the recommendations that were done by UCC in their Ugandan online child survey of 2020, the Ugandan Children's Online Survey 2020, they are perfect recommendations. One of them was like in the next 5 years, they need to do a lot of sensitization. They looked at policy changes where they can focus more on children. I know we talk of, for example, the Computer Misuse Act, but this is general. The issues that come for kids are totally unique, and we need more. I believe we need more dedicated policies towards how a kid can be done. Then the other bit is, how do we make sure that digital citizenship, in the 9 elements of digital citizenship, can be brought to the classroom so that the educators who spend almost 3/4 of the year with our children also take this part of digital citizenship within the curriculum and educate practical ways, even theoretic side of it, effects of technology on kids as they take advantage of the opportunities that come with it, so that what a parent can't do at home can be done by a teacher at school. And what that can be done, there is UCC that can be intentional once in a while and say, instead of, for example, bringing the kids to UCC for a debate, why not get 20 advocates to go to different schools, bring in these debates within school levels. Also on the other side, media houses. I know we need money, but UCC has put up quite rules on when to display certain movies. Even today, there was another publication in the paper. They've written to media houses. I've been working with a media house since until last year, end of last year. They've been writing, just telling us, stop playing this music. But we still play because the demand is there. Also on the other side, what if also, everywhere in our spaces of influence, be intentional enough to blow this trumpet, like the HIV drum was done in early years as an awareness drum. We need to blow this trumpet. But at the end of the day, like Natif said earlier, let's create a balance of where we can groom kids to make their own informed choices because they have the capacity to learn these things. There's a reason why, Ben, you're who you are, because somehow at a certain level, your parent taught you some values embedded in either culture or religious beliefs. The question is, how do you craft these cultural, religious, family values into this digital parenting that we're embracing? Lastly, be very intentional at breaking the screen time. Limit it at a certain level. Remembering that technology is a tool that is supposed to help us in different things. Now, when you become intentional and bring what we're calling the physical activities, instead of allowing the kid to play 24 hours of PlayStation soccer, bring the ball in its realness, let them play with the fellow kids, the board games. Be intentional in creating a rota on how your kid runs the day when in holiday, rather than leaving it to them to choose whether to watch 5 hours, 10 hours of TV or not. Be the rota. We had it as kids when we had play-based parenting. Now with screen-based parenting, we are lost. So in that, then the enforcers, UCC, the regulatory authorities, we need to redesign the framework, taking lessons from those who are there before us. And that way, we can take baby steps and make sure that we're there.
And I guess it would have to be baby steps for us to actually even think about going in that right direction. Natif, anything from you in terms of what we need to do, what you think we can and must do?
Yes, I listed a bunch of initiatives, but one thing, interventions. One thing, Ben, you need to remember, you have traveled the world and you come back with fridge magnets, okay? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on.
Now, in place of one of those magnets, or just below it, create an internet use protocol, like a home internet use guide. And then on that guide, put things like the following, okay? You can't do something face-to-face, don't do it online. If you can't walk to strangers and just give them your address and your phone number and all that stuff, don't do it online. If you can't strip naked and walk on the street, don't send your nude. So those are basic common sense things. You need to remember as a parent that communication is the best way to actually parent. So remove, I said earlier, lessen that power distance between yourself and your child. These days, we no longer parent with a stick, we parent with words, because the dynamics of parenting have changed significantly. So to be able to get your word to be held onto, you have to build that trust and friendship. It's almost like cajoling your child to be better mannered. But that's really the only way, because you can invade their individual space and have them allow you in, and you discuss risk that they're finding online. So yes, start discussing internet safety quite early. I related it to the sex conversation. Sometimes parents leave that for, the evening the child is getting married, but really, you have to do it as early as possible. Then don't feel like your job as a parent is to play CIA, FBI, and all that stuff. It's just going to make that child raise walls that will keep you out, deny you access. You won't know what's going on. You're going to be parenting blind. It's like flying blind.
Yeah.
You're going to hit walls and you're going to crash. So don't be a spy, because they'll find out. They are better at this thing than you are.
I think I absolutely agree with you. I think for me, the one thing that has stood out for me so far from this space is what you've mentioned about the fact that we must try to build strong enough relationships with the children so that they can be able to listen to us when we guide them, as opposed to trying to do the whole lay down the law, because that's not going to work. Obviously, it end up being a much bigger problem. I wanted us to just take a couple of thoughts, questions, or comments from a few people who might be available. Okwanga, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and sharing your thoughts, try and keep it as brief as we can so we can take as many as we can before we wrap up. I know we've already shot beyond what we're supposed to go through in terms of time, but it would be good to hear your thoughts. If you want to share any thoughts, you can ask to be given the microphone. We'll do that. So we'll hear from Okwanga. Lukman Ali, good to see you on the space. I think you wanted to share something as well. I must give you space because I know that I'm depending on you to make me a famous movie star soon. So I must make sure I give you access, and then we'll come to you, Ivan, as well. Let's start with you, Okwanga Oscar 1. If you could kindly unmute yourself and share your thoughts briefly. Go ahead. Oscar, are you there? Right. If Oscar is not there yet, I've got Robert Asimwe as well. Robert, And Lukman, are you able to unmute yourself?
Oh yes, I can. Can you guys hear
there
me?
you are, sir. Yes, we can hear you, Director. How are you?
I'm okay. Ben, thanks for having me. For me, I feel like some of these questions can't really be answered like in a straightforward way, because internet is like this thing that's evolving so fast that it's hard for us to like comprehend like the extent of like where it will be even next week. And it's like a drug, highly addictive, even for like us adults. So you can imagine how damaging it can be for like a young person with a developing brain. I've been thinking about this and how I will approach it with my own kids, since I'm planning on getting some very soon. And I think that the best way is to create like localized systems. So with like the AI we have now, you can kind of create your own internet at home from like a local system. So basically you have your books, you have everything that your kids might need, research, all these things. So you basically build a localized system. And this can, for people that can't do it on their own, it can be done for like a community perhaps, and it can be shared so that like all the community kids can share the same system. So these systems will pretty much only have educational stuff and only things that they need in their lives now. And then also kind of keep them away from like smartphones. So they only have phones that where they can communicate. I don't think they need to be exposed to all this, because the moment you open that gate, you can't control it. You can come up with all these VPNs, all these things, but there's so many ways to go around those things. I mean, even governments can't control what people see. They try, but unless they unplug the whole thing, there's like no way of doing it. So I feel like we need to evolve with the system. So creating localized systems, maybe, for example, UCC could create a system for Ugandan kids. And it's a local system, kind of like how China has their own thing going on. So I feel like that's probably the only way to like save the kids, as opposed to trying to create all these laws. I don't think they'll work. Kids will figure out how to go around them.
We've always figured out how to work around this now. Thanks a lot, Lukman. We've always figured out how to work around all the systems. So I do agree with you entirely on that. It would be good to hear from my boss, who's the head of international and public relations at UCC. But as we try to get him on, Robert Asimwe, if you could kindly unmute yourself and share your thoughts briefly.
Thank you very much for the opportunity and so much important insights from the speakers. Really, I was learning one, two things. As we've accepted here that internet has come to stay and it is evolving very fast, we need to acknowledge that for a fact it is a double-edged sword for our children and for our young people. Then another truth.
Robert, I think we seem to have missed you. Are you still there? You seem to have dropped off. Let me see. Right, let me try and see if I can get Robert back on to continue. Robert, let me know if you're there. In the meantime, I think Ivan Senabia, you wanted to share something as well, very briefly. If you could come and share that as well. And then we can hear from Ibrahim Bossa, who is the head of public and international relations, to sort of help us wrap up the conversation in terms of what UCC is doing, going past this. What other things can we try and do to make things a little better?
Yes, Ben, thank you so much. My name is Ivan Senavulia, Communications Officer, High Sound for Children. Now, for me, I believe empowerment of the user is key. because an empowered user has proven safe and safer. And we need to note that actually we have so many gaps. But talking about safer internet, the responsibility will always lie in the hands of the user. So for us, what we do, we work with the schools. We have a program. We run media clubs in the schools, and we unpack the media for children. We tell them the good about the media and then the bad about the media for them to emulate what is good. We are pushing for because we have so many issues like issues of misinformation, disinformation, but we're telling these children for them we're pushing for something to get to a level where a child can stand up in a home and tell mommy that the content is not appropriate for me or for us. So I think we need to join hands and empower the users. We need to empower users because government will come in, so many gaps are there, but we need to empower the users. Thank you so much, Ben. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Good to hear from you, Ivan. There was another Ivan who wanted to share something, but I think we seem to have lost you. And then, of course, also from Ibrahim Bossa, who is on the call, I'm having a hard time trying to get him on. In the interest of time, for both Owen and Natif, if you could kindly share your parting shots for today. And I think Lukman Ali mentioned this very well, that this is not something we can be able to finish in a one-off. But clearly, there are things that we might be able to do that would push us in the right direction. Any parting shots from you, Owen? And then from Natif, and then we'll wrap up for tonight. It's already after 9.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks to UCC for this opportunity to step towards the right direction. My parting shots basically about every stakeholder doing their role. Make sure that create a space where our kids can thrive on the internet and technology, but stay safe. And this means starting with the number one gatekeeper, our parents, to take the upper hand in knowing that grooming and values, instilling values is our role. Being the best models we can be, even with internet. When you're driving your kids at school, don't be on your phone, on TikTok, and then tomorrow you tell them they're addicted to phone, they won't understand you. So be that you want your child to be, and then also take a step to learn a lot. Instead of TikTok time, the 67%, let's also use some Google time to see how do I make my home safer for my children to enjoy the internet without getting this harm. Then also on the other side is to make sure that these schools that we are in, the educators, let the policies, why I advocate for policies is that they become the basis of even when there are bad actors, the groomers, the traffickers, you base on the laws and the policies to actually apprehend them. So if they are not there, then adaptation of technology in these spaces like schools and all that, using it, they need a policy to base on it so that they are as effective and proactive. So I also believe that for spaces like UCC, Ministry of ICT, let them keep their tabs with the trends. And that way, keep in mind that there might not be, I'm tempted to think that time comes when most of our policymakers think was on about where the money is in this project than the impact of the project on the people. So I pray that we don't look in that way, because the next cancer, the next pandemic is what the Pandora box that happens with the technology. Have a great evening.
Thanks a lot, Owen. Parting shot from you, Tony?
Yeah, thanks, Ben, for and UCC for organizing this space. I think it's brilliant that we're having these conversations. These are conversations we need to have in our households. Internet safety is important, especially now that our society is embracing internet use. 13 million Ugandans have access to the internet. I think within the next 5 years, that number could get to 40 million, given the trend in which this is going. and we need to devise ways of ensuring that the environment is safe, so we can harness its benefits for societal advancement. Most important thing is the role of a parent in all this. Two, UCC, the government in that regard. But also, most importantly, we need to also put pressure on companies that actually create these apps to find a way of making them age appropriate. And some of them are responding. We need to look out for that. But yes, have those internet safety conversations in your household. I recommend an internet safety manual that you constantly discuss with your family, but also encourage your kids to get out more, go hiking, go for walks, do what, spend time together, play board games and all that stuff. The more you keep them away from non-productive internet use, the better for you. Being a draconian parent will just alienate the child. Think about control of internet use the same way you think about treatment of addiction. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Let me give the last word to our head of public and international relations at the Uganda Communications Commission, my boss, Ibrahim Bossa. You're welcome.
Yes, Ben. Thank you very much, Ben, and Owen, and Natif. I think this has been incredible. We want to thank you, of course, on behalf of the Uganda Communications Commission, for you having taken part and made some amazing and invaluable contributions during this X-Space discussion on part of the Safer Internet Day. I think there are many takeaway homes we can figure out as the commission here, and also I'm sure people have benefited from this. It is important, I think, that our listeners get to know that as a commission, we are still dedicated in investing in digital literacy and awareness campaigns.
If your resume isn't getting traction,
you probably have seen us in the community and doing some media campaigns through radio. We will be starting much earlier in schools and basically having an activity that culminates here. So meaning we shall be having probably debates in schools to engage more of the younglings in that regard. Of course, we know that knowledge is the best defense at the end of the day. And we have not also stopped the aspect of strengthening cyber laws and online regulation. In discussions like these, discussions like we have had today with the children, always give us an insight on where the gaps are. We also get new ideas, new approaches to see how we can strengthen our cyber laws. And I think if you see what has happened recently with the Computer Misuse Act, there are some strengthening aspects in there that can help people who are offended, who are attacked, who are basically subjected to identity fraud or theft and things of the kind. So we continue to work together to make sure that we make this a reality. And we have partnered, of course, with a number of entities within the safer digital ecospace. Today we had Milima, with whom we organized today's event, and I think they did a wonderful job. It's not the first time that we are working with them, but we are also working closely with the reporting and support systems, like under the Ministry of Gender, Sauti 116. These are all partners basically to help people to find a safe environment on how they can enjoy the internet for work, for education, for excitement. So I think for me, in a nutshell, Ben, I think particularly impressed about the issues around we having conversation with our children. There's more conversation that is required here by parents, by minders, to build confidence of our children and for them to be able to see the red flags when they come. I think I have a take home here on where we need parents to be able to get acknowledged or with the technology to do with parental controls in terms of managing screen time. I think that was a fantastic discussion. I think we also have a big takeaway on discussions with our kids on the risks associated with the internet, especially how they can navigate, how they can report issues of bullying, how we handle issues of addiction, and handling the issues of gaming. I think they were well discussed here. I think there's a lot we can do. These discussions can't stop. So we want to thank everybody on behalf of the Uganda Communications Commission that this has been exciting. And I think let us work together to continue harvesting a digital landscape that we can all be proud of. Thank you very much. Ben, thank you very much. Mwen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Bossa. And I just wanted to say that I think I have some ideas. My boss, I'm going to be looking for you because from what I'm hearing, and I like how Owen and Natif have put it, this is probably a truly national problem. And there's some stuff I think we can be able to do. I'll definitely be looking so we can discuss that and then bring these guys on board. For everyone who stayed throughout until the end, I want to say thank you so much on behalf of UCC. I hope that you can be a bit more deliberate about managing your screen time, but especially if you have kids or young ones under your care, be a lot more deliberate about how we navigate the vagaries of this thing that we call the internet. Happy Safer Internet Day for all of you. Have a great night. God bless you. God bless Uganda.